Son of a, son of a, son of a bitch. I didn't even realize the button was done, had been pressed. I'm over here turning myself up. And then everybody tells me I'm muted. Okay, cool. How about now? How about now? Okay. Okay, cool. Son of a bitch. That's a good way to start it all off. Okay, I get it. Quiet Darth, muted Darth. Very muted indeed. Frog, good evening to you. Michelle, good evening to you as well. Okay. Now that I've boomered my way through the beginning of the show again. Law 43. Man, oh man, oh man, we are getting close now. I can almost taste the end of this damn book. It's been almost a year since I've been picked this one up initially, and man, oh man, oh man, they just get more and more fun. Bijou holding it down for the Rumble Gang as well. Howdy, Bijou. Bijou says hi, everyone. Ah. So tonight, we get into the 43rd Law. Work on the hearts and minds of others, which, I mean, if you want to have power, power resides where people believe it resides. If you don't have the hearts and the minds of the people, take care, Shell. Have fun over with the winning gang and tell everybody over there I said something offensive. Call them a Finook or something for me. Appreciate that. Ah. So anyway, working on the hearts and minds of others. Boop. Dang it, it's got the judgment up. And it makes sense, yeah, because you might be able to instill power over people through sheer fear. That is perfectly reasonable and tenable for a time. But if you don't have the people behind you, if you don't have a support system, there's always going to be people looking to attack your power. Now, it is arguable and probably most likely that there will always be people seeking to unseat you from whatever position of power you have. You can see that quite often, even with people who are beloved by the majority of people. But if everybody sees you as an enemy, guess what? You're going to be able to find enemies everywhere you look. And if you don't have the hearts and minds of others supporting you, your days of pursuing power are absolutely numbered, if not already over, before you even begin. Now, before we get into the judgment, I have just realized that I have boomered yet another thing. I have gone ahead and drank my whole cup of coffee before the stream started, and now I don't have one to sip on as we get into this. So I will be right back in 20 or 30-ish seconds. I wish I had I really need to get like an interlude video for when I walk away, but I've been lazy on doing these things. So talk amongst yourselves for a few seconds. I'll be right back and then we can get into it. Okay. Mo coffee. All right. Did I miss anything? Okay. I got chat just doing what they do, talk amongst yourselves. People peopling. I can make you one with fish. That's a power. Ah, the race to legendary first shot stayed with his lead, and though I may have closed the gap significantly and got exactly as far as I really wanted to get in real life, he did manage to keep himself well out ahead of me. So, congratulations to Free Shot. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, eh, wait a minute. Am I still muted? I pressed the button. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you can hear me again while I sip the coffee. Anybody? Hello? Am I. Uh, is this. Okay, cool. Excellent. Anywho, shall we get into it, guys? I think we should. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Judgment. Coercion creates a reaction that will eventually work against you. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction. A person you have seduced becomes your loyal pawn. Well, that's not a nice way to look at it. And the way to seduce others is to operate on their individual psychologies and weaknesses. Soften up the resistance by working on their emotions, playing on what they hold dear and what they fear. Ignore the hearts and minds of others, and they will grow to hate you. Precisely. That very last part is precisely what I was getting at. Like, you can subvert and coerce and intimidate only so far. You cannot build an empire on such tactics. It definitely isn't going to work for you. I am a loyal prawn, but if you can get people to truly believe in you, to truly stand for what you stand for, you can 100% make loyal allies out of all of them, and they will follow you until you give them reason not to. Funny enough. So, this is going to be one of those laws where we work on the seductive arts because, literally, I mean, this is going to be very straightforward. If you don't have people's true heartfelt support, they're going to work to undermine you, overthrow you, and get rid of you for somebody that they like more. And in reality, a lot of power, especially power in like a political realm, is wielded by those who can politic the best, those who can win the popularity contest, so to speak. But even in some realms of business, you can find internal corporate politics looking a lot like a giant ass kissing and popularity contest as well. So this concept transcends whatever arena you're looking to gain power in, unless, of course, you're a UFC fighter and your power is almost essentially in the physical realm, like your ability to market yourself, which is to win people's hearts and minds, will go very well towards advancing your career and making you somebody people want to pay money to see. So, no matter what you're looking at, if you want influence, the hearts and minds are abso-fucking-lutely necessary. 1,001%. Cyrus's ruse. Thinking of the means by which he could most effectively persuade the Persians to revolt, Cyrus's deliberations led him to adopt the following plan, which he found best suited to his purpose. He wrote on a roll of parchment that Astyages had appointed him to command the Persian army. Then he summoned an assembly of the Persians, opened the roll in their presence, and read aloud what he had written. And now, he added, I have an order for you. Every man is to appear on parade with a billhook. The order was obeyed. All the men assembled with their billhooks, and Cyrus's next command was that before the day was out, they should clear a certain piece of rough land full of thorn bushes, about 18 or 20 furlongs square. This too was done. Whereupon Cyrus issued the further order that they should present themselves again on the following day, after having taken a bath. Meanwhile, Cyrus collected and slaughtered all his father's goats, sheep, and oxen in preparation for entertaining the whole Persian army at a banquet, together with the best wine and bread he could procure. The next day, the guests assembled and were told to sit down on the grass and enjoy themselves. After the meal, Cyrus asked them which they preferred, yesterday's work or today's amusement, and they replied that it was indeed a far cry from the previous day's misery to their present pleasures. This was the answer which Cyrus wanted. He seized upon it at once and proceeded to lay bare what he had in mind. Men of Persia, he said, listen to me. Obey my orders, and you will be able to enjoy 1,000 pleasures as good as this without ever turning your hands to menial labor. But if you disobey, yesterday's task will be the pattern of innumerable others you will be forced to perform. Take my advice and win your freedom. I am the man destined to undertake your liberation, and it is my belief that you are a match for the Medes in war, as in everything else. It is the truth I tell you. Do not delay, but fling off the yoke of Astyages at once. Okay, so he lied to everybody. And then he went ahead and did a stark case and carrot and stick manipulation. And now he's coming clean that basically, like, I'm going to lead you all to liberation against the leader who supposedly put me in charge. The Persians had long resented their subjugation to the Medes. At last they had found a leader and welcomed with enthusiasm the prospect of liberty. On the present occasion, the Persians under Cyrus rose against the Medes, and from then onwards were masters of Asia. So he got their full support instantly, and then he took it all the way to the bank. Smart play. If you're gonna win the hearts and minds, you can do you can accomplish innumerable feats. Feats great and feats terrible. Just make sure whatever you do, you don't do feats fetish. That's gross. You heard it here first, folks. I mean, I'm just kidding. Do whatever you like. I'm a libertarian. I don't care. Just don't make me look at it, and feet are gross, y'all. Like, seriously. Is it true that a way to a man? I hear that that is true. I also hear that the quickest way to a man's heart is through the middle of his chest and or shoulder with a sharp knife or a kitchen knife, or right through the middle of the chest with a sharp object of some kind. Cheers, y'all. So, as Cyrus led the Persians in the revolution against the Medes, so shall I now lead all of you wonderful folks, that is, the 8 of you that are watching live on YouTube, the 1 of you that's watching live on Zitter, Twix, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. And let's do a check in. 14. Count them. 14 of the finest souls Rumble has to offer. Cheers to each and every one of you. Let's get into the observance or transgression. I'm not sure which. Oh, we're going to get into the transgression of the law. Now, let's find out how to lose hearts and minds like current potato in chief is doing a fine job of. I mean, literally, didn't he just hit the lowest approval in like presidential history? Like, ooh, that seems bad. Oh boy, transgression of the law. Near the end of the reign of Louis XV of Surrender Monkey Land, France. Okay, so for those who are still remember and very familiar with this story, since we've been talking about it a lot in these last couple laws, Louis XV, son of the Sun King, Louis XIV, had some mighty giant shoes he tried to step into and fill. Needless to say, he failed miserably. So let's figure out what he did to transgress the hearts and minds of the people. Other than not be nearly as great. Yeah, Louis XV. This guy again. Yeah. Ah. All of France seemed desperate for change. When the king's grandson and chosen successor, the future Louis XVI, married the 15-year-old daughter of the Empress of Austria, the French caught a glimpse of the future that seemed hopeful. The young bride, Marie Antoinette, was beautiful and full of life. She instantly changed the mood of the court, which was rank with Louis XV's debaucheries. Even the common people, who had yet to see her, talked excitedly of Marie Antoinette. The French had grown disgusted with the series of mistresses who had dominated Louis XV, and they looked forward to serving their new queen. In 1773, when Marie Antoinette publicly rode through the streets of Paris for the first time, applauding crowds swarmed around her carriage. How fortunate, she wrote her mother, to be in a position in which one can gain widespread affection at so little cost. So she literally hasn't even met these people yet, but they're just so annoyed and disgusted and grossed out by this disgusting Frenchman, Louis the 15th, and as well they should be. Literally, just the mere existence of her has already given her a significantly undue influence in the kingdom. Not saying that her influence isn't merited at all, but literally, you're getting an award just for being there. Good job. In 1774, Louis XV died and Louis XVI took the throne. As soon as Marie Antoinette became queen, she abandoned herself to the pleasures she loved the most. Ordering and wearing the most expensive gowns and jewelry in the realm. Oh, I ain't saying she a gold digger. You know how the rest of the song goes. I ain't gotta sing it for you, and I'm not gonna. Sporting the most elaborate hair in history, her sculpted coiffures rising as much as 3 feet above her head. So she's wearing a giant alien hat, only it's her hair, and throwing a constant succession of masked balls and fetes. I'm assuming that's a party of some kind. All of these whims she paid for on credit, never concerning herself with the cost or who paid the bills. Oh, well, I mean, thank you, Firsty, for that strong finish. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I know she's a woman, but she's already pissing me off, and I wasn't even alive then. And this is like one of the most pivotal times in all of human history because a couple of years after this went down, America did a revolutionary. Not from the French, but from the British, who were just almost as offensive as the French at this point in history. Marie Antoinette's greatest pleasure was the creation and designing of a private Garden of Eden at the Petit Trianon, a chateau on the grounds of Versailles, with its own woods. The garden at the Petit were to be as natural as possible, including moss applied by hand to the trees and rocks. Well, I'm just going to say it. If you have to apply moss by hand, it isn't fucking natural. Stupid. But of course, I mean, again, dealing with a woman. No offense, women, ladies, you're lovely. You're all the smartest and most bestest women ever. If you love women and think they're amazing, smash that like button. If you think the 19th Amendment should be repealed and women shouldn't vote, smash that like button. If you think China is asshole, smash that like button. Go ahead, y'all. You know you can do it. To heighten the pastoral effect, the queen employed peasant milkmaids to milk the finest looking cows in the realm. Launderers and cheesemakers in special peasant outfits she helped design. Shepherds to tend sheep with silk ribbons around their necks. When she inspected the barns, she would watch her milkmaids squeezing milk into porcelain vases made at the Royal Ceramic Works. To pass the time, Marie Antoinette would gather flowers in the woods around the Petit Trianon, or watch her good peasants doing their chores. The place became a separate world, its community limited to her chosen favorites. Hmm. Do you see now where this is going? Can anybody with foresight let me know what she's walking into? Yes, all the women in my community are clearly exceptional because I'm not going to lie to you, women of average to common intellect would just be offended at all the things I say, not even understanding that a lot of what I say is tongue in cheek because satire and sarcasm. Um, I'll tell you what I think. I don't think that's going to happen, but she is doing what is known as isolating, and she's got this very limited community that she's building away from an entire kingdom, which she's supposed to be queen of. And there were a people clamoring for this new queen to revitalize the kingdom. And she basically goes into isolation immediately. What do you think that's going to do to the hearts and minds of the people that she had immediate influence over instantly? You think that's going to. It's a trap! It's a trap of her own design, though. Ah, poor, dumb broads. Yep. With each new whim, the cost of maintaining the Petit Trianon soared. Meanwhile, France itself was deteriorating. Oh boy. Does this sound like an administration you know where like I don't know. Let's give a hypothetical here like uh the price of groceries is going through the roof, the price of housing is going through the roof. Uh and the people in charge are giving, I don't know, billions and billions of dollars to uh, countries that might have a name that rhymes with no brain or Jisrael or, a bunch of criminal aliens that might be crossing the border and invading, but not invading because, well, it's not an invasion, it's asylum seeking. Durr. All in all, you're paying for it. You, not them, not the people who are doing this. Like there was famine and widespread discontent. Even socially insulated courtiers seethed with resentment. The queen treated them like children. Only her favorites mattered, and these were becoming fewer and fewer. But Marie Antoinette did not concern herself with this. She should have. Not once throughout her reign did she read a minister's report. Not once. Yes, way more bester than that Donald Trump economy where we had like affordable gas and 4-day work weeks for some people and like groceries that we could actually afford. You could maybe buy a house. Like, yeah, definitely way better than that. Not once did she tour the provinces and rally the people to her side. Not once did she mingle amongst the Parisians or receive a delegation from them. Not once, guys. Not once at all. She did none of these things because as queen, she felt the people owed her their affection and she was not required to love them in return. And not once. I mean, look at the current administration and look at the former administration and look at the stark contrast between the two. Love him or hate him, the orange man in the number 45 jersey was a man of the people. His rallies, they go for hours. He loves to talk. He loves to be the center of attention. He loves to be loved by the people. The current people in charge blatantly disregard not only the people who are in the opposition party, but their own people as well. They clearly make it very well known they don't give a fuck about you, about the problems you're going through, about the state of the nation they're ruining. It's all by design. Their contempt is evident. And I will give one thing for the administration before, that would be the Abomination. At least he was a personable guy. He was a young guy. He had enough energy. I mean, I know why they can't just have Bo Jiden out, like, trying to. Number one, he's always been an asshole, like, a racist, an elitist. Like, he's been an asshole his whole life. Like, there's plenty of evidence going back all the way to his beginning term as a senator that proves that. But they don't have charisma. They don't have charm. They don't have competency. Like, if they didn't have a very, very deeply connected system backing them, and if they didn't have the ability to use that system to lock up the biggest steal, and I'd like to choose this moment to shill Divinity 143 on Rumble. Her Tuesday shows she's reading The Big Rig by Pat Byrne, who's goes through very well and gives a detail of exactly how this widespread election fraud came down to a tale of six cities. It's a thrilling tale, and if you don't know about the 2020 presidential election, I recommend her stream. If you can tolerate the Canadian, it's worth a watch because the book she's covering is fucking spot on. I was already aware of 95% of what's going to be covered in that, but a lot of people still don't know exactly what happened and how it happened. They know something's funny. Everybody admits something fishy went on, but this guy's got a lot of receipts on exactly how this went down. He goes through a very well detailed play by play, and I recommend it for everybody. So check out Div's channel for that specifically. Anyway, back to it. Uh, in 1784, the Queen became embroiled in a scandal. So it took 10 years for her to become embroiled in a scandal. As part of an elaborate swindle, the most expensive diamond necklace in Europe had been purchased under her name. And during the swindler's trial, her lavish lifestyle became public. Oh boy. So she got conned, and during the trial of the con man, she got exposed. People heard about the money she spent on jewels and dresses and masked dances. They gave her the nickname Madame Deficit, which I believe is Lady Debt. I don't really speak Surrender Monkey, but I know what a deficit is, and that looks like the word deficit to me. I just pronounced it with a funny gay French accent. No, deficit, not dandelion. And from then on, she became the focus of people's growing resentment. Makes sense. When she appeared in her box at the opera, the audience greeted her with hisses. Even the court turned against her, which I would have assumed they would have a long time ago. For while she had been running up her huge expenditures, the country was headed for ruin. 5 years later, in 1789, an unprecedented event took place. The beginning of the French Revolution. Check out Mossy on the OnlyFins channel. Monkey. Oh, surrender monkey accent. French. No, I'm just kidding, French people. You know I don't respect you. No, I mean, yeah, I don't. Sorry. Good evening, Squabbles. Good to see you, my friend. Oh boy. A lot of fish died in the French Revolution. A lot of frogs, too. Uh, Vive la kick! The Queen did not worry. Let the people have their little rebellion, she seemed to think. Oh boy. It would soon quiet down and she would be able to resume her life of pleasure. Okay. That year, the people marched on Versailles, forcing the royal family to quit the palace and take residence in Paris. So basically, they overran the the palace of Versailles. This was a triumph for the rebels, but it offered the queen an opportunity to heal the wounds she had opened and establish contact with the people because she could no longer isolate herself in this very isolated palace. If y'all don't know, Versailles was built like right in the middle of the country, far away from the hub of everything. The queen, however, had not learned her lesson. Not once would she leave the palace during her stay in Paris. Her subjects could rot in hell for all she cared. Ah, the contempt, the seething contempt. In 1792, the royal couple was moved from the palace to a prison. Don't worry, Marie, now you don't ever have to leave again. As the revolution officially declared the end of the monarchy, the following year, Louis XVI was tried, found guilty, and guillotined. And I don't mean the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu choke, I mean the beheading. That kind of guillotined. As Marie Antoinette awaited the same fate, hardly a soul came to her defense. nor should they. Not one of her former friends in the court, not one of Europe's other monarchs, who, as member of their own country's royal families, had all the reason in the world to show that revolution did not pay. So everyone, even who had a self-interest in defending this bitch, not a single one of them did. Nobody. This is what you get when you don't make friends. You have to have a large circle of friends, or, I mean, at least a circle of supportive friends. And that be a super necessary. Otherwise, this. Not even her own family in Austria, including her brother, who now sat on the throne. She had become the world's pariah. In October of 1793, she finally knelt at the guillotine, unrepentant and defiant to the bitter end. Literally a completely self absorbed bitch. Disgusting. Let them eat cake. That was a Marie Antoinette quote, wasn't it? So flippant and disregarding. What about a square of friends? No, a circle of friends. And if you have square friends, I mean, it's understandable. I have some square friends as well. But you want to keep your square friends in your circle. It's a good idea. Like I said, there's not too much about this law that I suspect is going to be all that difficult to interpret. I mean, this bitch showed the entire world exactly what mattered to her, only herself, and then the world showed her exactly what she mattered to them. Just as much. Like you clearly only care about yourself. Well, guess what? That's the only person you're gonna have that gives a shit about you at the end when you kneel in front of the guillotine. Bye. Interpretation. From early on, Marie Antoinette acquired the most dangerous of attitudes. As a young princess in Austria, she was endlessly flattered and cajoled. As the future queen of the French court, she was the center of everyone's attention. So she developed what we call the entitlements. She had this delusion that because things had always been the way they were, that that's just how they were supposed to be, and she didn't have to earn a single fucking thing. She never did, like, put it together in her head that, like, you owe all of this to the people below you. No, I mean, honestly, yeah, even the dumb dumb woman gotta understand this one. I mean, how many women? Everybody has met at least one of these women who literally have just had everything come to them so easy throughout their life. They have no damn idea what it's like to actually have a decent person. We call a lot of these women Karens in modern society. They have no idea about charming or charisma because that people have always just pandered and showed them deferential treatment. So when they finally like hit that point where that deference runs out and they get equal treatment and what they actually deserve, they have no fucking idea what to do with it because they've never experienced the reality of this scenario that, hey, when you were beautiful and everybody wanted to, like, well, basically, it's every woman wanted to be with you, be you, and every man wanted to be with you. Like, this works both ways as well. You get this level of entitlement where it's just always so easy that when reality comes back around and smacks you, they don't fucking know what to do with it. They've never had to deal with that before. And it's a shock. It's fucking a shock indeed, and a usually a brutal one. To become attuned to their individual psychologies. She never had to work to get her way, to use calculation or cunning or the arts of persuasion. And like everyone who is indulged from an early age, she evolved into a monster of insensitivity. The quintessential, as we call it, spoiled little bitch. You ever met a spoiled little bitch before? All grown up into an adult? That's what happens when you spoil your kids. That's where the Karens, Karen, you know. Carrots has to do with like the weight of diamonds in this regard. Squab. Yeah, I mean we've all met a spoiled little bitch. They suck as children. Like everybody knows that one kid who's a spoiled little brat, and then if you look at their parents, almost inevitably there's a spoiled little bitch or two in that equation as well. All like the fruit don't fall far from the trees is a saying for a reason, and it's precisely this. Marie Antoinette became the focus of an entire country's dissatisfaction because it is so infuriating to meet a person who makes no effort to seduce you or attempt to persuade you, even if only for the purpose of deception. That, please, would you go ahead and lie to me because that would be more palatable than the truth. And do not imagine that she represents a bygone era or that she is even rare. Her type is today more common than ever. Is anybody surprised to hear that? I'm not. I see it all the fucking time. And if you tend to have to build your business providing a service to affluent people, people who are financially well off, you'll see it even more commonly because it doesn't like stop at Megan. Uh, I'll use an example of affluence and just like uh, Vice President Kamala Harris. Have you ever seen this bitch try to people before? It's cringe bait. Another great example is my governor, Gretchen Whitmer. But no, this is not exclusive to women, although there are like you said, this type of person is more common than ever. Look at the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Castro. Look at the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Look at what is that little midget that runs the UK's name again? He's not very personable either, is he? I know the guy who runs Israel's not very personable. I don't like Zelensky or Putin for that matter, like, or Xi Jinping. I think Kim Jong Un is a short, fat midget. He's hilarious. Uh, is he Muslim? I thought Rishi Sunak. Yep, I thought he was Indian. I didn't think he was Muslim. I thought he was from India, but oh, or the Muslim fella that runs the Taliban. All the Muslim fellas for that matter. They're really not very. I can't think of a very personable one amongst the Muslim nation, but I'm not too familiar with them. I'm more like in the Western nations. I mean, who was that woman that ruined Germany? Well, Germany was like never great to begin with. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. I knew that because it's like 30%, right? Like it's mostly Hindu, but there's like some Christians and some Muslims, but it's mostly Hindu. I mean, there's 1.8 billion or 2 something billion Indians, so yeah, Angela Merkel, that's the one. Thank you, Firsty. Like all of these people all seem to share a common thread. People hate them. And when you do have a super popular political guy like Bolsonaro, the guy from Brazil, or Orange Man 45 from the United States, or Javier Milei from Argentina. They're going the people who want to defend their power. These very pathological, sociopathic people will do anything in their power to go ahead and try to get rid of these people who can rally the support of the people because anything that rallies the support of the common man is a threat to the current global order's power regime and establishment. This is a universal thing across the board now. You see it everywhere. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You really can't. Super unfortunate. Such types live in their own bubble. They seem to feel they are born kings and queens and that attention is owed them. I mean, we live in what people have dubbed the entitled generation. I think a lot of this is a shitty upbringing, loss of values. I mean, we could argue for days what really caused all of this, but it's a combination of all the things that really caused all of this. The degeneration of all values, which is what communism does. They do not consider anyone else's nature, but bulldoze over people with the self righteous arrogance of a Marie Antoinette. Pampered and indulged as children, called it. As adults, they still believe that everything must come to them. Convinced of their own charm, they make no effort to charm, seduce, or gently persuade. They literally just think that they deserve everything because fucking reasons. And nobody at all has ever been like, yeah, insert name of entitled piece of shit is my favorite person. Because everybody hates these entitled shit biscuits. Nobody wants to put up with that crap. In the realm of power, such attitudes are disastrous. I mean, I can imagine in the realm of just like social just interaction, such attitudes are disastrous because I've been around these uppity ass people before and Nah, bro, I'm good. Like you stink of arrogance and self fucking obsession. Get away from me. And to the extent that I'm kind of a narcissistic tendencies having fellow Mark from Orc was okay. Mark from Orc was an alien. Also, Robin Williams played that character on TV. That's not real. Shit biscuit. Oh, did I? Oh man, you can tell I'm irritated because I let the word shit biscuit enter into uh my 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 explanations here. I'm all at all times you must attend to those around you, gauging their particular psychology, tailoring your words to what you know will entice and seduce them. This requires energy and art. The higher your station, the greater the need to remain attuned to the hearts and minds of those below you. So the common, stable, mucking servant generally doesn't need to be the most friendly guy, but even he, the lowest of all of us, if maintaining a kind demeanor, can generate goodwill from those above them, ergo raising their station. But for those spoiled, entitled shits who can't be bothered to worry about anyone, especially those below them, their contempt will be their undoing, inevitably. Hey, fish nerd. Uh, Shit Biscuit is something I picked up from a specific video game where I, I, I ran with a specific crew, and to explain a shit biscuit would be the all encompassing catch all term for all the phrases that they don't allow on YouTube anymore. It's not a pleasant thing. Like it's just a shit biscuit. It's right up there with a shit weasel, which eats shit biscuits, but I'm not even going to get into all the verbiage and vernacular of that game. It's too damn much. Creating a base of support to maintain you at the pinnacle. Without the base of support, your power will teeter, and the slightest change of fortune, those below will gladly assist in your fall from grace. As I stated at the very beginning, if you're trying to be in a position of power over people, you need the support of those people. Not maybe not all of them, but a significant enough swath of them that everybody isn't trying to bring you down and you have some allies on your side. Otherwise, you will be undone. And this is why nobody wants to deal with a spoiled, entitled, self absorbed, narcissistic piece of shit. Nobody definitely wants to serve under that. Raise your hand if you've ever had a boss who n- never had and never thought they ever had any need to be personable to people, who was just kind of a bitch or a dick all the time. Like always with that I'm better than you because I'm the boss like attitude. Like those people don't inspire loyalty, and they usually have the highest turnover rates. And for a while I worked at a factory when I was much younger. And we had several shift managers, several line managers on each shift. And you can literally tell who was the dick to work for, because they were the people who were constantly having to have new people come into their line all the time because people kept quitting. And eventually, yep, eventually this is what happens to that guy. Evening, Gohagen said didn't last 9 months. Did you quit or did they get fired, Gohagen? That's my question. Because a lot of times, like, that person won't get fired right away, but after like five, six, seven, eight people quit and nobody else has quit from anyone else under anyone else's watch, it's like, well, why is everyone quitting on your shift? Oh, it's not them. You're the problem. We're going to get rid of you. So that happened. He got fired. There you go. Probably cost you a couple of decent people who quit before he did, though. I'm not going to assume I know the details of your story, but this is, in general, what I observed from this, which is why uh, once we started our own business and it became clear that I was going to have to lead people, like my natural instinct is kind of to be like a not so understanding of other people's situations. Like I know the thing that you're supposed to do, like, and I've been doing it for so long. It's second nature to me, but it's not intuitive to everybody. So I've had to learn to be a bit more of a gentle leader than I would otherwise normally be because I've constantly got to deal with a bunch of new people. You gonna lay them out in a story, huh? Are you gonna do that right now? Because got to finish the chapter first. Mm. Well, you like writing a story? That would be funny. Buy a book by Go Hagen. This POS told me about how his son got an A and was so proud of himself for the A that his son got. Oh, he's one of those guys. Then this fucker yelled at him and said, "Where is the plus?" Oh, the kid was proud of himself. Oh, he's one of those. Uh, the never good enough. That my biological father was that kind of guy too. Like no matter what you did, it was always excel to be more. And I could have understood that, but yeah, it's like it's the carrot and the stick. It's like okay, the A is usually good. Like not all teachers give A pluses for one, but I mean like if you're excelling, you're excelling. Like, but always keep pushing to excel. I don't know. I think I would have been decent with like trying to teach my kids like the balance between discipline and not becoming obsessed and whatnot. Like I don't know. Never had kids. Never had the chance. Stories for other days. Now, since Marie Antoinette proved to be very unpopular because she was a self-righteous, self-absorbed, narcissistic cunt piece of shit. I mean, like Amber Heard, for example. Hmm. Oh wow, that's even grosser. It's like, yeah, I was an asshole to my kid who did really good because he didn't do good enough. That's no, dude. I would have been like, yeah, you're kind of a douchebag, bro. Which is why I have a hard time working for any leadership myself because a lot of people who get themselves in any sort of little power position truly get themselves this kind of attitude where they just believe that, oh, because I'm the manager and I'm in charge, like I know better than you. It's like, yeah, well, I actually have to do the shit. So you only have to do managing, which doesn't look that hard. I could probably do that and my job, but let's not get into that. You might be unemployed tomorrow. Let's get into an observance of the law of somebody who can truly charm, seduce, and persuade people. In AD 225, Chuko Liang, master strategist and chief minister to the ruler of Shu in ancient China, confronted a dangerous situation. The kingdom of Wei, oh, the Wei again, man, these guys are always causing trouble, had mounted an all out attack on Shu from the north. More dangerous still, Wei had formed an alliance with the barbarous states to the south of Shu, led by King Menghuo. Chuko Liang had to deal with this second menace from the south before he could hope to fend off Wei in the north. Oh boy, surrounded. Nerd! I had to do it. Uh, Thank you, Firsty. As Chuko Liang prepared to march south against the barbarians, a wise man in his camp offered him advice. It would be impossible, this man said, to pacify the region by force. Liang would probably beat Mengwo, but as soon as he headed north again to deal with Wei, Mengwo would reinvade. It is better to win hearts, said the wise man, than cities. Better to battle with hearts than with weapons. I hope you will succeed in winning the hearts of these people. You read my thoughts, responded Chuko Liang. So he's got a completely different approach. He knows that he can't fight north and south because as soon as he turns his efforts one way, he's going to be attacked from the other side. So he has got to make peace with somebody. So he is already reading on this line as well. Oh boy. When you call somebody king something and it's got a negative connotation, that's awesome. As Liang expected, Meng Huo launched a powerful attack, but Liang laid a trap and managed to capture a large part of Meng Huo's army, including the king himself. Instead of punishing or executing his prisoners, however, he separated the soldiers from their king, had all their shackles removed, regaled them with food and wine, and then addressed them. You are all upright men, he said. I believe you all have parents, wives, and children waiting for you at home. They are doubtless shedding bitter tears at your fate. I am going to release you so that you can return home to your loved ones and comfort them. The men thanked Liang with tears in their eyes. Then he sent for Meng Huo. If I release you, asked Liang, what will you do? I will pull my army together again, answered the king, and lead it against you to a decisive battle. But if you capture me a second time, I will bow to your superiority. Not only did Liang order Meng Huo released, he gave him a gift of a horse and saddle. When angry lieutenants wondered why he did this, Liang told them, I can capture that man as easily as I can take something out of my pocket. I am trying to win his heart. When I do, peace will come of itself here in the South. Well, hello there, Chilomania. Good evening to you. We got 9 billion on the YouTube side. Shout out to all 9 billion of you. Smash that like button. Do you got a temp check on the Rumble side? 16. Still killing it. Rumble gang gang for the dubs. And to my biggest fan, the only one watching on the Twitter platform, I love you too. It tries to tell me that nobody's watching on the Twitter, but I know that's not true. It says so right here. As Mengwo said he would, he attacked again. But his own officers, whom Liang had treated so well, rebelled against him, captured him, and turned him over to Liang, who asked him again the same question as before. Meng Huo replied that if he had not been beaten, Meng Huo replied that he had not been beaten fairly, but merely betrayed by his own officers. He would fight again, but if captured a third time, he would bow to Liang's superiority. Over the following months, Liang outwitted Meng Huo again and again, capturing him a third, a fourth, and a fifth time. On each occasion, Meng Huo's troops grew more dissatisfied. Liang had treated them with respect. They had lost their heart for fighting. But every time Chuko Liang asked Meng Huo to yield, the great king would come up with another excuse. You tricked me. I lost through bad luck. On and on. If you capture me again, he would promise, I swear I will not betray you. And so Liang would let him go. When he captured Meng Huo for the sixth time, he asked the king the same question again. If you capture me a seventh time, the king replied, I shall give you my loyalty and never rebel again. So this Meng Huo, not gonna lie to you, he's very, very, very fucking stubborn. You would think after a couple of times, like losing more and more support from his men and his army, he was literally betrayed by his own lieutenants. The second time they went to battle here, that okay, you win, I give up, I'll go find something else to do. Stop attacking you when you turn around. Very well, said Liang. But if I capture you again, I will not release you. Now Meng Huo and his soldiers fled to a far corner of their kingdom, the region of Wuge. It's Wuge. It's the Wugest region in our entire kingdom. I mean, I would have told him that, like, on the second one, but he's clearly not trying to take his head. Third time, I mean, like, I guess. I could see a reason for that. Defeated so many times, Mengwo had only one hope left. He would ask the help of King Wutugu of Wuj, who had an immense and ferocious army. His army was Wuj. It was the Wujest army in the entire region. Very ferocious. The best army you could buy. Wutugu's warriors wore an armor of tightly woven vines soaked in oil, then dried to an impenetrable hardness. With Menghuo at his side, Wutugu marched this mighty army against Liang, and this time the great strategist seemed frightened, leading his men in a hurried retreat. But he was merely leading Wutugu into a trap. He cornered the king's men in a narrow valley, then lit fires set all around them. When the fires reached the soldiers, Wutugu's whole army burst into flame. The oil in their armor, of course, being highly flammable. All of them perished. So, this whole catch and release game, this worked with the Menghuo's people, but you, Wutugu, nope. We're gonna give you to the fire. Like, we ain't fucking with you guys. Not even gonna try. We're just gonna burn you all alive. Cheers. Speaking of burning alive, like, let's roast one for the dead men of Wooj. Liang had managed to separate Meng Huo and his entourage from the carnage in the valley, and the king found himself a captive for the seventh time. After this slaughter, Liang could not bear to face his prisoner again. He sent a messenger to the captured king. He has commissioned me to release you. Mobilize another army against him if you can, and try once more to defeat him. Sobbing, the king fell to the ground, crawled to Liang on his hands and knees, and prostrated himself at his feet. "O great minister," cried Menghuo, "yours is the majesty of heaven." Ah, that's Jesus. "We men of the South will never again offer resistance to your rule." "Do you now yield?" asked Liang. "I, my sons, and my grandsons are deeply moved by your honor's boundless, life-giving mercy. How could we not yield?" Liang honored Menghuo with a great banquet, re-established him on the throne, restored his conquered lands to his rule, then returned north with his army, leaving no occupying force. Liang never came back. He had no need to. Menghuo had become his most devoted and unshakable ally. Sup, Castro? Ah, so you see the stark difference between a man who cared about the well-being and the lives not just of his own people, but of people who declared themselves his enemy. So he won not only the respect of his own troops, but the respect of all those opposing him through this constant show of mercy, even in the face of their silly little rebellion. Because they were no real threat to him, but because the real threat lied to the north, he had to make peace with those below him. The men who have changed the universe have never gotten there by working on leaders, but rather by moving the masses. Working on leaders is the method of intrigue and only leads to secondary results. Working on the masses, however, is the stroke of genius that changes the face of the world. Napoleon Bonaparte. Life of Abender the Great. This long and painful pursuit of Darius, for in 11 days he marched 3,300 furlongs, harassed his soldiers so that most of them were ready to give it up, chiefly for want of water. While they were in this distress, it happened that some Macedonians who had fetched water in skins upon their mules from a river they had found out came about noon to the place where Alexander was. Oh, Alexander the Great, not Ben. I love this. I love this. Uh, and seeing him almost choked with thirst, presently filled a helmet and offered it him. Then he took the helmet into his hands, and looking round about, when he saw all those who were near him stretching their heads out and looking earnestly after the drink, he returned it again with thanks without tasting a drop of it. For, he said, if I alone should drink, the rest will be out of heart. The soldiers no sooner took notice of his temperance and magnanimity upon this occasion, but they one and all cried out to him to lead them forward boldly, and began whipping on their horses, for whilst they had such a king, they said they defied both weariness and thirst, and looked upon themselves to be little less than immortal. Alexander the Great. If I don't drink, if everybody don't drink, nobody drinks. This is taken straight from the battles of the Upper Peninsula. Well, the Upper Peninsula never actually had battles. The Upper Peninsula was a consolation prize that was granted to Michigan because of the War of Ohio. I'm not going to get into the War of Ohio. Fuck Ohio. The Life of Alexander the Great by Plutarch. Now, there was another one in here before. It was like right in the middle here. The Gentle Art of Persuasion, and I did want to come back to this. The north wind and the sun were disputing which was the stronger, and agreed to acknowledge as the victor whichever of them could strip a traveler of his clothing. The wind tried first, but its violent gusts only made the man hold his clothes tightly around him, and when it blew harder still, the cold made him so uncomfortable that he put on an extra wrap. Eventually, the wind got tired of it and handed him over to the sun. The sun shone first with a moderate warmth, which made the man take off his topcoat. Then it blazed fiercely till, unable to stand the heat, he stripped and went off to bathe in a nearby river. Persuasion is more effective than force. I mean, it don't help that the challenge is rigged. They have no heel. No heel. So this is this that, but this is funny like that. That the sun would bet the wind that the wind could get this man to take off his clothes. You're cold. You don't make people want to get naked. Cold as ice. Try to force the man's clothes off. So let's get into the interpretation and show why Liang was so much more successful at winning the people. No Hio. Oh, no Hio. No Hio. No Hio. No Hui. Oh, Ohio is for lovers, not losers. Oh, wait, never mind. You're right. Except for Firsty, who is an honorary citizen of Michigan that has been taken captive by Ohio. That's actually funnier than it should be. Fish nerd. Some guys might get desperate enough hearing the wind is blowing. Well, at least something is blowing. A blowy for me, please. Interpretation. Shuko Liang had two options: try to defeat the barbarians in the south with one crushing blow, or patiently and slowly win them over to his side over time. Most people, more powerful than their enemy, grab the first option and never consider the second. But the truly powerful think far ahead. The first option may be quick and easy, but over time it brews ugly emotions in the hearts of the vanquished. So unless you're willing to literally like wipe them out to the man, you will always have those surviving that hate you. A lesson that we never learned in a lot of the countries we've stuck our unreasonably militarily large nose into. But if you do destroy them to the last man, then you alienate yourself amongst the very people you get to go do all that senseless, unjustified killing. So there is no sort of love in brutality and barbarism. There is only fear, and that does not build great empires. Their resentment turns to hatred. Such animosity keeps you on the edge. You spend your energy protecting what you have gained, growing paranoid and defensive. The second option, though more difficult, not only brings you peace of mind, it converts a potential enemy into a pillar of support. In all your encounters, take a step back. Take the time to calculate and attune yourself to your target's emotional makeup and psychological weaknesses. Force will only strengthen their resistance. With most people, the heart is the key. They are like children. And how many times have I told you? Most people are like children, ruled by their emotions. To soften them up, alternate harshness with mercy. Play on their basic fears and also their loves, freedom, family, etc. Once you break them down, you will have a lifelong friend and fiercely loyal ally. It's the whole catching more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. It's it's not a hard concept. Is anybody not understanding here? Is anybody confused? I don't think anybody should be. This is pretty damn clear. Government saw men only in mass, but our men, being irregulars, were not formations, but individuals. Our kingdoms lay in each man's mind. Seven Pillars of Wisdom, T.E. Lawrence. And I have no idea what that is actually in reference to. Oh boy, my favorite section of the chapter, the keys to power. A bit louder, maybe, for the extra dumb at the back. I don't think anybody here is extra dumb. And I don't think this one's extra complicated. Like, if you're a dick to people, they're not going to support you. If you're fair, if you're personable, even if you're not sincere, if you act like you care, even if it's just to serve your own ends, you will garner a lot more support than if you're brazenly, openly contemptuous to people. Nobody wants to deal with an asshole. People don't like people who are fake nice either, but they're generally a lot more successful in these power play realms than people who are just outright contemptuous. Greetings. The force be with us always. Welcome to the 48 Laws of Power discussion. Baki Onigiri, I believe. I mean, pronouncing names that are foreign to me. Definitely something I've been getting more and more practice with reading this particular book. Hopefully, I got that right. Welcome to our little discussion club. So let's get into the keys to power and figure out why this very simple, obvious thing is a thing. In the game of power, you are surrounded by people who have absolutely no reason to help you unless it is in their interest to do so. Literally everything is in this regard. Like, and everything in power revolves around people because power is nothing but a game played with people. And if you have nothing to offer their self interest, you are likely to make them hostile. For they will see in you just one more competitor, one more waster of their time. Those that overcome this prevailing coldness are the ones who find the key that unlocks the stranger's heart and mind, seducing him into their corner, if necessary, softening him up for a punch. But most people never learn this side of the game. When they meet someone new, rather than stepping back and probing to see what makes this person unique, they talk about themselves, eager to impose their own willpower and prejudices. They argue, boast, and make a show of their power. We've all met people who think they're powerful, who act just like this. They may not know it, but they are secretly creating an enemy, a resistor, because there is no more infuriating feeling than having your individuality ignored. Your own psychology unacknowledged. It makes you feel lifeless and resentful. And lucky for us, in most cases, we don't have to forcibly associate with too many of these type of people, but you're going to come across them in everything, everywhere you go. These uppity sons of bitches are everywhere, more common today than ever in history. Remember, the key to persuasion is softening people up and breaking them down gently. Seduce them with a two-pronged approach. Work on their emotions and play on their intellectual weaknesses. Be alert to both what separates them from everyone else, their individual psychology, and what they share with everyone else, their basic emotional responses. Aim at the primary emotions: love, hate, jealousy. Once you move their emotions, you have reduced their control, making them more vulnerable to persuasion. When Chuko Liang wanted to dissuade an important general of a rival kingdom from entering into an alliance with Soso, Liang's dreaded enemy, he did not detail Soso's cruelty or attack him on moral grounds. Instead, Liang suggested that Soso's was really after the general's beautiful young wife. This hit the general in the gut and won him over. Mao Zedong similarly always appealed to popular emotions and spoke in the simplest of terms. Educated and well read himself, in his speeches he used visceral metaphors, voicing the public's deepest anxieties and encouraging them to vent their frustrations in public meetings. Not completely unlike the current modern day winner of hearts and minds, the orange in the 45 jersey. He's definitely not one of us. But he does try to appeal to everybody as if he is one of us. He was never like one of us. But it's the attempt to appeal that makes it all work for him. His character is not one that he revels in his elitism and his better than, I mean, he's better than Rosie O'Donnell. He doesn't take any crap, but he speaks simply and plainly, and he plays on people's emotions. He reads the room, and the room is like the country at this point, and he can sense the general temperature that's going on in the political climate. He's a master salesman and an entertainer. Everything people want in a leader, except for the ability to actually competently lead in this particular arena. I think he's overmatched, and I don't think he knows what he's up against, even still to this day. Rather than arguing the practical aspects of a particular program, he would describe how it would affect them on the most primitive, down to earth level. Do not believe that this approach works only with the illiterate and unschooled. It works on one and all. All of us are mortal and face the same dreadful fate. And all of us share the desire for attachment and belonging. Stir up these emotions, and you captivate our hearts. Exactly. The best way to do this is with a dramatic jolt of the kind that Chuko Liang created when he fed and released prisoners who expected only the worst from him. Shaking them to the core, he softened their hearts. Play on contrasts like this. Push people to despair, then give them relief. If they expect pain and you give them pleasure, you win their hearts. Creating pleasure of any kind, in fact, will usually bring you success, as will allaying fears and providing or promising security. Symbolic gestures are often enough to win sympathy and goodwill. A gesture of self sacrifice, for example, a show that you suffer as those around you do. This is going back to that excerpt about Alexander the Great, where the Macedonians had brought water and offered a helmet to him because they only had a little bit. They couldn't give water to his whole army. And before he went and drank it, he looked around and was like, you keep this. If my men don't drink, I don't drink. And if I don't drink, my men don't drink, and we're marching on. And they all flocked to him very specifically. Hopefully, you're not gone too long, Mousy. I don't know how much is left of the keys, and then we will have the reversal after that. And then it will be special announcement time. And I'm thinking there's not going to be a whole lot to the reversal of this one because I can't see any sort of situation where turning the hearts and minds against you would ever serve to benefit your power. This is kind of a key fundamental of power. So I'm not expecting a big reversal on this one. Either way, hurry back. Yes, I have a special announcement. Special announcement at the end. Well, I think it's special. Symbolic gestures are often enough to win sympathy and goodwill. A gesture of self sacrifice, for example, a show that you suffer as those around you do, will make people identify with you even if your suffering is symbolic or minor and theirs is real. When you enter a group, make a gesture of goodwill. Soften the group up for the harsher actions that will follow later. When T.E. Lawrence was fighting the Turks in the deserts of the Middle East during World War One, oh, is this that Lawrence? Lawrence of Arabia, the one you were talking about? I love this type of talk and critical thinking. The masses don't have this. Even worse, there's still a lot of people that believe that everyone is love and light. Unfortunately, yeah, the truth of human nature is that we are fundamentally, at our best case, dumb, panicky animals. and we're easily manipulated and we want to believe. I do agree that most people, like my community, has remained small because not a lot of people like the ugly truth of how power works, what reality is. I keep a group of people who some are very high level elite thinkers. Some people just want to know what is the real deal. And some of us, yeah, just love the fish in the community. I love you, Squab. You're a goofy son of a bitch. But yes, Sir Lawrence of Arabia. Now it all makes sense. Thank you for the explanation. Squab is a local historian and general peace loving pacifist. He likes to ignore the reality of what humanity is or look upon it more favorably, but he is not completely blind to the reality of what he just chooses to be better than our baser natures. And I commend Squab as a pacifist for that. A true child of God. Okay, back to T.E. Lawrence. He had an epiphany. It seemed to him that conventional warfare had lost its value. Yeah, I mean, warfare's constantly evolving. The old fashioned soldier was lost in the enormous armies of the time, in which he was ordered about like a lifeless pawn. Lawrence wanted to turn this around. For him, every soldier's mind was a kingdom he had to conquer. A committed, psychologically motivated soldier would fight harder and more creatively than a puppet. Absolutely. Lawrence's perception is still more true in this world today. That is why uh, I follow Jocko Willink. I don't know if anybody is familiar with him, but he wrote a book called The Dichotomy of Leadership, and he basically expressed that leadership is best done by the people closest to whatever the thing is that needs doing. And he preaches decentralized command for this specific reason. And anytime you've got a bunch of people that you need to have power over, to get them to be loyal to you, but to manage themselves will always gain you a more productive force if they believe in your mission than you will have with just people who like just doing my job, don't really care about it. Love always wins. It's the ultimate weapon. Well said, Bijou. Well said. Lawrence's perception is yeah, where so many of us feel alienated, anonymous, and suspicious of authority. Oh, they just described me. All of which make overpower plays and force even more counterproductive and dangerous. Instead of manipulating lifeless pawns, make those on your side convinced and excited by the cause you have enlisted them in. Which is why I like to, rather than do this as a video series where I just give my thoughts, I like to take those people around me who also have thoughts, and I like to get them involved. I like to hear from the people who are listening to me, which is why I love doing the stream live. Which is why the one time I tried to do the stream recorded, I failed to even make it through the chapter because I was like, what does chat think? Even if chat is not talking about it, there are people out there who have insights, opinions that I've never considered, or explanations that I wouldn't have been able to give. And all of their opinions and thoughts are valid too. Like, For me to truly build a strong worldview, I have to have the opinions of more than just myself and my understanding of things. Pray. Why not start there? Interesting explanation there, Senor Squab. Instead of manipulating lifeless pawns, make those on your side convinced and excited by the cause you have enlisted them in. This will not only make your work easier, but it will also give you more leeway to deceive them later on. And just for the record, just because you can doesn't mean you need to, but if you have to, sometimes it is best to just do what it must be done and make less about it than necessary. And to accomplish this, you need to deal with their individual psychologies. Never clumsily assume that the tactic that worked on one will necessarily work on another. To find the key that will motivate them, first get them to open up. The more they talk, the more they reveal about their likes and dislikes, the handles and levers to move them with. Which is why, if you're going to be a good leader, it isn't always a terrible idea to have a good whiskey selection on hand, because nothing gets the tongues moving like a good old hard shot of the good stuff. Just that's just a pro tip. Like if you really want to get people talking and get to know what they're really thinking, get their guard down, put a little liquor in them, and they will be hardly aware of what you're really trying to do if you just buy them a drink or offer them a drink, maybe two, maybe three. You seem like such a generous host. In reality, you're softening them for information. The quickest way to secure people's minds is by demonstrating as simply as possible how an action will benefit them. Self interest is the strongest motive of all. I cannot stress this enough. Self interest will always be the primary motivator of 99% of everybody you come across, whether it be interest for their family that is still their in group, that is still themselves. Personal interest obviously reigns supreme. You will very rarely come across somebody who is not motivated by things that benefit them. That is why people who are in desperate spots are some of the most easy to manipulate. A great cause may capture minds, but once the first flush of excitement is over, interest will flag unless there is something to be gained. Self interest is the solider foundation. The causes that work best use a noble veneer to cover a blatant appeal to self interest. Let me give you an example. MAGA, Make America Great Again. That is literally a noble veneer that masks a very blatant appeal to self interest. We want to make America great again. We don't want the country to collapse. Couldn't sell it any better. That is why the Orange Man is such a great salesman. Because it's very simple, the pitch he's doing. The cause seduces, but the self interest secures the deal. The people who are best at appealing to people's minds are often artists, intellectuals, and those of a more poetic nature. Now, I like to personally count myself amongst this type of group. I'm not so much of an artist, but an intellectual and of a poetic nature. I can definitely say I tend to value these things. They work well for me. This is because ideas are most easily communicated through metaphors and imagery. This is why, rather than doing other content that I could be doing, I'm here talking about this particular book with all of you. I know what's popular as a streamer on the internet. Like, I see the formula for all the really big streamers, there's definitely a formula for being a popular YouTube slash Rumble slash just a internet influencer, if you will. I hate that fucking term, influencer. It's gross. I'm not gonna do any of that stupid fucking performance bullshit to appeal to people's need to be entertained because that shit is of no value to me. And if it's not a value of mine, how could I ever sell it to you? I wouldn't be fit to. I like to do commentary of an intellectual nature and get people thinking and talking, get people understanding what's going on around them and how they can use power to their advantage and also use power to not be taken advantage of. See it for what it is. Realize the ugly truth of what this is. This is how I work on the hearts and minds of my audience. It is always good policy, then, to have in your pocket at least one artist or intellectual who can appeal concretely to people's minds. Kings have always kept a stable of writers in their barn. Frederick the Great had his Voltaire until they quarreled and separated. Napoleon won over Gautier. Conversely, Napoleon III's alienation of such writers as Victor Hugo, whom he exiled from France, contributed to his growing unpopularity and eventual downfall. It is dangerous, then, to alienate those who have powers of expression and useful to pacify and exploit them, which is why you see such a alarming trend in the attempt of censorship of all information going on around us, because in the digital age where communication and information are easier to obtain for the general masses than ever, those with what they thought was a vice grip on power are now being questioned in greater and greater numbers in greater and greater circumstances, and they really don't want those people with those voices, your Alex Joneses, your Joe Rogans, your Elon Musks, even those oh god, I hate to say it, those scumbags at the Daily Wire. You know the group. But the Patrick Bet Davids, I mean, they want people disseminating information that are under control of the power structure. And I'm dreaming of being a ichthyologist. Is that a? Oh, you want to watch videos on my ichthyology? There you go. But yeah, I mean, power is the power structure is failing miserably to control or stem the tide of like counter information, the things they label misinformation and disinformation, is just to keep control of the conversation and the narrative. That's why they want voices like mine silenced from the public square. I am not anyone of great influence, but I can see the people around me who I tend to support that are, and there are several viable threats to the regime and its power. And it's if it were a more benevolent and less corrosive and corrupt regime, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. But they wouldn't be trying so hard to shut you up if it was. Finally, learn to play the numbers game. The wider your support base, the stronger your power. Understanding that one alienated, disaffected soul can spark a blaze of discontent. Louis XIV made sure to endear himself to the lowest members of his staff. You too must constantly win over more allies on all levels. A time will inevitably come when you will need them. Never be satisfied with the reach you have. Keep reaching. Keep going further. I started this series just doing the series on YouTube. But YouTube is a place with its own host of problems. So, to diversify the reach and to also cement myself as not being able to be removed from the conversation completely, I am now cross platform on YouTube, on X, and on Rumble. Right now, I have 8 live watching on YouTube. I have 1 live watching on Twitter still. Shout out to you. And I have a fairly incredible. I don't even know what the number is right now. 17. 17 watching on Rumble where I don't get suppressed, where my voice isn't shadow banned, and where there is more of an audience than there are people to create. So shout out to all of you watching over there. I love every single one of you. Go ahead and smash that like button. Follow if you haven't, if you're enjoying these kind of conversations. Because even though we may be drawing to a close very shortly on the 48 Laws of Power, there are so many texts with so many important ideas and concepts to cover that the 48 Laws of Power coming to an end is only a beginning of what I have planned for my channels and my presence online. Until they make me shut up, I will continue to yell louder and louder. Image, the keyhole. People build walls to keep you out. Never force your way in. You will only find more walls within walls. There are doors in these walls, doors to the heart and mind, and they have tiny keyholes. Peer through the keyhole. Find the key that opens the door, and you will have access to their will with no ugly signs of forced entry. Literally, you will do a lot better getting them to let you in and give you a key than you will breaking into their house. Because if you truly trust somebody, you may give them a key to your home for whatever reason. But if somebody breaks into your home, the odds of you ever trusting them are nil. Absolutely not. In fact, even if I trusted you before, you have broken that trust by breaking into my home, my safe space. I built those walls to keep you out. Damn it. Authority. The difficulties in the way of persuasion lie in my knowing of the heart of the persuaded in order thereby to fit my wording into it. For this reason, whoever attempts persuasion before the throne must carefully observe the sovereign's feelings of love and hate, his secret wishes and fears, before he can conquer his heart. Han Fei Su, Chinese philosopher, 3rd century BC. Oh boy. Oh, that is a topic I can definitely get into and should get into the dynamics of social. I mean, there's a book called The 36 Laws of Seduction. To give a short form on this, and I really hate giving a short form on this, but I could also go and since you're on my YouTube, I have a bunch of streams actually that I've privated from before I started changing what my content was, where I talked about this type of thing at length. Uh, I I don't I don't like it. Like I don't like the concepts of modern day dating. There's a whole lot of things wrong with it, and most of it is yeah, most of it's social in nature. I mean, there's a lot of legal ramifications. There's a lot of broken culture, uh, e- erosion of like traditional family values, things that genuinely like. There's so many contributing factors that make it absolutely a shit show. But I'm 40 years old and I have embraced the MGTOW moniker, not because I can't find a woman to date, but because the juice is no longer worth the squeeze to me specifically. So, spoiler warning to Mr. Squabob when he said earlier, Darth has found a woman. That was not what the special announcement was, sir. So, yeah, I mean, I could definitely, and hopefully, if you stick around, I can find a more applicable time to go ahead and give my true breakdown into all of why I have the feelings about modern day dating, but I wouldn't advise it. I mean, Sigmund was a fraud. Shout out to my guy. I did not get a kitty. I will get to it once we're done with this reversal. Okay, I can't imagine there's much of a reversal here. I don't. Anybody see much of a reversal coming? Surprise! There is no possible reversal to this law. Short and that fucking sweet. What is going on, my dude? Welcome to the very end of the show. Uh, but I do have a special announcement. And for those of you who have actually been with me since the very first law a year ago, which is most of you. I mean, most of you that are in my chat on YouTube anyway. A lot of you are newer and came later on. But once upon a time, I started this show not as a solo show. I had a very special co-host slash guest host who was with me for the first four laws. Then through several occurrences of nature, had to disappear. I mean, maybe it's because I fired her, but on Friday at noon, the creator formerly known as Divinity Said, who is now known as Divinity 143 on Rumble, will be returning to the 48 Laws of Power because as it began, so ought it end. So on Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, Law 44, Disarm and Infuriate with the Mirror Effect, with special guest Divinity, my favorite. So hopefully everybody is excited about that as I am. And if you're not and you have no idea who Divinity is, definitely show up on Friday because if nothing else, me and Divinity can get into some very, very timely debates and very applicable discussions. It actually makes a great conversation. So, Squab, to spoil your warning, I did find a woman, but unfortunately, it's just a woman to come and keep us all company and go ahead and help me try to explain a couple of these final laws at least. So far, we've nailed down two specifically, 44 and 48. We'll see what's going on with the rest of them at some point, but I hope to see every single one of you there. It's it's been a long time coming, but better late than never in my opinion. And very, very hopefully we will have quite an amazing discussion like we had once upon ago when we first started this show. You do have 45. You called it. So Monday, we're gonna have Mousy come join us too. So she's gonna have to cancel her show because Monday, Law 45, she called it. We're gonna see if we can hold her to it. I haven't I haven't signed the contract yet with Mousy, but we have locked in the contract with Divinity. So I will see all of you back here hopefully on Friday, noon Eastern Standard Time. Law 44. Yes, Matthew, I am still going. I am just wrapping up. I just told everybody the super top secret announcement that Divinity will be returning for Law 44. So I'll catch you all on Friday at noon for that discussion. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. That ought to be a very, very interesting show. And like I said, I'm excited. I hope everybody else is excited as I am. Until Friday, have a good rest of your week. Make sure if you're at all interested in like the 2020 election still, if that's still relevant to anyone, like I said, the very same Divinity on her Rumble channel, Divinity 143, is reading the Big Rig by Patrick Byrne, and it's a very, very concise grab on information about that election and how it was actually rigged. Darth and Div, the Sam and Diane of you. I I know Jack and Diane. I don't know Sam and Diane, but your references are a lot older than me sometimes, Mr. Matty. So I'll see you all back here Friday. And like I've been saying, y'all, it's getting crazy out there. It's only going to get crazier, I'm pretty sure. So seatbelts and sidearms, stay strapped or get clapped. Like, literally. I love you all. I want to see all the best for you. Stay powerful. Work on hearts and minds around you. If for nothing less, so people won't annoy the shit out of you with their nonsense. Until Friday, y'all, Darth Hideous